Welcome back to the next panel, next discussion, next session of this interesting masterclass with the title Making Content That Matters, very important, and Maximizing Its Value, and Video Production Roundtable with LINK9. Together with me, I have two colleagues from LINK9. So I have Shawna and Sanders and Rimaz from LINK9. So colleagues, please introduce yourself and the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, I am Shawna Sanders, the Director of Visual Arts at LINK9. And joining me today is Director of Content and filmmaker Rimaz Kaleel.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Welcome to our fireside chat about creating video content and using it to its fullest potential. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the chat as we explore video today together. Rimaz, we've seen some really dramatic shifts in the way that people consume content in the last few years. For example, the mass migration from broadcast to streaming services. And as we just heard from our partners at viihealth, personalization is on the rise. Live streaming video events spiked dramatically in the last year. As you look at where we've just been and where we're headed, how do you determine what content trends are just a product of the moment, like a pandemic, or what's going to continue to matter?
No, that's a great question. At the heart of it, content that matters, at least for me, is content that has an impact. Either it be provocative content, kinds that change a viewer's a view of the world. Either it be a large subject or something very, very specific and small. When we jump on any project, we always look at who the end user is, who is watching this piece, and I think impact is always what drives content that matters at the end of the day. When we do that, we don't only impact patients, but also HCP experiences in profound ways. Shawna, how do you guide a production team? In your experience, to tap into like profound productions or profound content?
The way that I like to guide my teams is to tell them to always look for the story. For me, it is always about the story, and everything has a story. Everything that we produce, whether it's a patient testimonial or study data that's being communicated in animated graphs, an attraction loop for social posts, the mechanism of action, scientific story behind a molecule. Storytelling is our most ancient and powerful way of connecting with each other, and feeling connected is a core human need. And I think the rapid adoption of video as a tool to help meet that need shows how indispensable the medium is and has become for so many people. So I guide my clients and the other collaborators that I create with to always be looking for that sense of community and that relatability that you can find with the viewer. You want to invite the viewer to actively participate in the story. And if you can do that, those are all shortcuts to connection. Harnessing the power of that connection through video is an opportunity for brands to bring a deeper level of value to the women.
I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, so what, from a director's perspective, then, what's important to you in a story?
Well, today with so many avenues, I think every one of us is a filmmaker. Every one of us has a camera, a voice, a story to tell in one form or another. You grab your cell phone, it's all right there, right? But that also tells us that these are new opportunities to new ways of telling stories. The medium has just expanded. The way you can approach a story is just quadrupled or even more. At the end of the day, the most important element of a story for me, no matter what medium you're using to tell the story, is having an authentic voice. Making sure that it's true to the idea. Because I think our viewers are very savvy. They can spot something that feels off. I think video is such a powerful medium if you can nail that human part in this whole narrative. Even if you're talking about like an MOA or something like that, that's very technical. It all boils down to some sort of human element in the story.
It's so true. But considering that so much of the content that we capture needs to be carefully regulated, right? How do you ensure as a filmmaker that what you're filming captures what we need in the edit suite? Let's say for a patient testimonial, how do you make sure we're meeting the brand's regulatory needs while remaining in the patient's voice?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that's one of those things that we sort of deal with every day, right? When it comes to how do we bring all these pieces into this one project, into on the same table. When you approach a patient story, at least in my experience, you can go about doing this in two different ways. One is usually a scripted or an unscripted approach. We do a lot of the scripted approach mainly because we need to make sure that we are staying within our legal guidelines, making sure that we are hitting the right ideas, the right story notes, but also being true to the subject or the patient. And the way we do that is spending a lot of time in pre-production, spending a lot of time getting to know the patient, either they be through interviews or through chats here and there, just making sure that they are a huge part of the process with us, as well as our everyone at the table, just making sure that we are all spending a lot of time getting to know each other and getting to know the patient's voice and story, so that we can script a piece that comes from the patient's voice, but at the same time making sure that we are hitting all the points that we need to hit and be within our legal parameters for a final product.
I gotcha. So composing in their natural voice for the scripted methodology is really important. And I've seen you in pre-production. And I have always appreciated the amount of time that you put into pre-interviewing, talking to patients one-on-one, getting to know them over the phone before they step on set, and really hearing who they are so that you feel like you know them when you get to the set.
That's the idea. I mean, if we can do that for a story, I think we're set up for success in that sense.
What do you do on set to create an environment where a patient feels comfortable and gets comfortable enough to perform when they might not be natural performers?
Keeping the lines of communication clean, making sure that they're not overwhelmed by a set. Or, I mean, this could be a large production or a small production. It doesn't matter. We have to always gauge a patient's comfortability in front of camera. I think when you put a camera in front of you, I mean, even myself, I sort of shrivel. So making sure that you have a good relationship way before you step foot on set is important. and also making sure that we have the right lines of communication so that the patient is only focused on you and you are only focused on the patient while everything else happens in the background. And notes can get trickled down, things can be changed, but as long as we have that nice barrier between, the chaos and the patient sitting there talking to us about their story, I think that always makes for a successful, comfortable experience for our patient, and also at the end of the day, more authentic delivery and story.
Absolutely, creating that safe environment is very important to providing the comfort level that your subjects need to trust you and with their story, which is what your goal as a director is. I know, that takes time, and it's time that we don't always have on set. So I know that that's why pre-production is such an important part of the planning stage. Do you think that big productions are still, do you think that big productions are still viable in today's marketplace? Connected TV viewership has arguably been the media's biggest success since the start of the pandemic, and marketers are expected to spend almost $17 billion next year. Do you sometimes think you need those high-end production values to break through the mass of content out there?
Oh, absolutely. I do agree. I believe that there's a place for all of those contents. I think when it comes to larger production, there's definitely a place for that. But I know that we've seen that type of productions changing and evolving over time. I mean, there's so much has happened in the last 2 years. People trust. I feel like you need to remember that customers want to see someone like them benefiting from X, Y, and Z. So the larger productions, the more cinematic, the more full-blown productions absolutely have a space, but we are seeing more and more of the smaller, more authentic, unscripted pieces in our market or in our space right now. So there can be smaller, shorter, more personal pieces that we see across the board.
You just said a word that I think sometimes strikes fear in the hearts of those that are investing in video production, which is unscripted. There is a sense of the wild, wild west out there when you say unscripted, right? But we know that people relate to people better than more than they do to something that feels overplanned or overproduced. And if you want to engage, you need to remember that your customers, like you said, want to see someone like them. So how do you encourage the teams that you're working with to consider an unscripted approach? It takes bravery. How do you bring them along with you on that journey? When
we talk about unscripted, I think there is a notion that it's not prepared, unplanned. It's not. It's just a different approach to production. It means you need to spend more time in pre-production, making sure that the questions that we're crafting, the avenues that we are going to explore, are all within a small margin, so that we are getting the right answers from the right, from the subject. Being a little more specific to video production, I think we do this by making sure that we have a lot of coverage, making sure that we have multiple cameras, multiple sets of B-roll, making sure that we have everything that we need for an easy post-production when things are unscripted. I think these can be extremely beautiful pieces if you plan for it ahead. It's really important to find comfort in the shifting away from this overproduced scripted styles. But I think there's a room for this, and at the end of the day, it is the voice that matters, and I think unscripted pieces have a place in our production.
Yeah, I can't tell you. I'm sure you have had this experience too. How many times have you been filming real people and they've told you something really genuine in between takes, right? When the camera's not rolling, when that formal take isn't happening. And what I've seen happen on unscripted sets, again, planned and guided, but unscripted sets where you're giving the patient the permission and the empowerment to speak in their own voice. You're more apt to capture those genuine, real moments that are the type of footage that is going to have an impact on your audience, right? If they are more comfortable. And everyone's more comfortable when they're speaking in their own voice, right? So I agree that considering unscripted today is even more important than it ever has been before. Because that's what we're seeing in the marketplace. That's what's out there. Like you said, everybody's making films. The films they're making are in their voice. The bulk of content is DIY. And that human connection, that breaking down of the fourth wall that is sometimes there in a higher end production can really add intimacy and connection that I think is essential to content that matters.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think we also have to always put ourselves in the audience's shoe, making sure that knowing your audience, making sure that it's a personal, intimate, so we can hear the story that's coming out of the production that you're working on. If you use the technologies correctly, you push beyond what your usual audio visual experiences, and just think out of the box. There's a lot of room for really good, impactful content, in this field, and it's really exciting. At the end of the day, it's very exciting.
Let's talk about that technology that's enabling us to tell stories in different ways. We're seeing a seismic shift in the way that we tell stories, and it's so exciting to have opportunities to step outside of the boundaries of video into something that's more immersive and experiential through interactive video and AR and VR. And there's so much to look forward to in the technologies that are coming. When we approach content from a multisensory perspective, I think we increase its value exponentially through the many ways that it can be repurposed. But you also could end up feeling a little bit like a kid in a candy store, right? Because there are so many great new technologies out there that I have seen. I do think that we're tempted to try them all and put them all on the same on the same project. How do you choose what's right for the project at hand?
No, that's part of the collaboration, going into a project, really trying to understand who the final audience is, what kind of experience would have the biggest impact to that audience. And again, as you mentioned, we have VR, AR, interactive video, volumetric video. There's quite a huge range of things that we can talk about video content alone. And then where is it being watched or viewed or experienced? Is it a physical location? Is it online? Is it on your phone? All of this sort of boils down to who the audience is, at what stage of their sort of life are they in, and that sort of helps us pare down the kinds of technology we'll pursue. Being medium agnostic is I think at the end of the day such an important place for any production company to be at, and it doesn't matter what it is, as long as we can tell that story. And
Yeah, medium agnostic I know that's a phrase that we like to use, because I think the boundaries of the word video feel very constrictive to us these days, don't they? It's not just video, it's audio, it's touch. It is the entire experience that you create through the piece that you're sharing. And when you think about the investment that you've made to capture video footage, and you plan ahead and consider it from a multimodal perspective, you double and triple the size of the library of footage that you have just invested in. One day shoot. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but Tommy, talking about return on investment, you're putting a lot of again, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what do you I know you get asked this question a lot. What do you find the most effective ways to do that? To be efficient and effective with one project or one production.
I think you think about it multimodally and you plan in advance. These are themes we've heard all day today, and I think it applies to the video industry as well. Hello. I think if you look at what you capture in one day from a video shoot, but you consider all of the different deliverables that you could create from that. You could pull audio to create a podcast. You could edit bite-sized vignettes to create an interactive video journey for the viewer. Or you could take some of the key points and turn them into a blog or a motion graphic driven media attention, social media attention generator. And by considering all of those ways that you can use one shoot's content, and looking at it holistically from the beginning, because the sooner that you know what you might want to make out of this content, the better we as the capturers can plan to capture it and guide our subjects to that information. So thinking holistically, thinking multimodally, planning ahead. Production efficiencies. I'm asked for those every day. You're right. Our business runs in stages, right? And we're trained to incorporate the right experts at the right stage in order to be efficient. We often wait until the stage where that prescribed expert should join. And for video experts, that's in pre-production. But I would argue that the most successful productions and the most efficient productions that I've been involved in are those where all of the experts and all of the creators, meaning the video director, the ad agency, the client, are all around the table at the beginning stages where the ideas are first happening. If you're talking and connecting all the time in that early planning stage, then the work that you do throughout needs to be revised less. It is, you're always on the same page and it's produced more efficiently. And the big ideas come early, and then you can plan for them and maximize your dollars when you're actually shooting, and you're not putting money into overages for these great ideas that might have come up just a little too late, right? So planning. I know it seems simple, but that is one of the most efficient ways to produce.
And I think the saying goes, especially in productions, fix it in pre. Don't wait till because once you do get all of your needs and asks and figure it out pretty early, or at least the early stages, the production and the post can be pretty smooth. And I think at the end of the day,
fixing it in pre is always better than fixing it in post, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, let's not say that out loud.
Well, I think that to do that, we need to connect early, or the work won't connect. And that's our goal, right? Is to create work that is truly connecting and piercing the veil. I think video productions today need to be more purposely orchestrated in a brand plan too. I think that we have thought of video as equivalent to broadcast productions for such a long time, or a specialty item. And today they are the norm. And tomorrow they're going to be the most popular form. Well, they are the most popular form of media at the moment. And tomorrow they're going to be growing. So I think if, we really begin to think about video as the norm in our brand plans and plan them from the start of scoping work, and we employ and tap into the insights of the experts at that early stage, then our plan becomes that much more dependable and impactful.
I agree.
It's enabling all the parties, right? Enabling all the parties to be connected to the content and to be able to shape it correctly. And I think we can even think about that all the way through to post-production asset management, to post-production, as I am going to coin a new term.
Yeah, because post-production doesn't end at post-production.
It's true. It's true. Taking that campaign that you have just produced and making sure that the assets are available to all of the parties, connecting them to the content, the brand managers, the agencies, the production specialists, all through an omnichannel programmatic system with built-in modular repurposing tools is really thinking smart and putting the power of video in all the stakeholders' hands. And that enables us to amplify the campaigns we're creating. Planning early, planning holistically through all modes of what's possible, all the way through to connective asset management. In my experience, when we do that, the production itself is actually the simple part.
Agree. Agree more.
Do you have any tips for our viewers out there who are looking at video in productions in the near future?
That's a big question. I'd say, I mean, as we've been talking about this, bring parties in early, plan early. Spend your time in pre-production. I think there's a few of the things that I think our partners should think about before starting a project, and also look at every medium that we have based on who the audience is going to be. Figure out who the audience is, what the story is, and then we can talk about medium and see what we can create. Because it's a wild world out there of video production.
Well, if you keep the who, I think, at the center of the why, the drama is inherent.
Agree.
And then the content is going to be much more compelling, and that is where we started our conversation.
Right.
Talking about creating impactful, compelling content that connects and provides an experience. I think that we've moved beyond, video has moved beyond being a participatory sport, and it's now fully immersive. And for me, as a video producer and as a partner of filmmakers, that's a really provocative place to be, to use a word that you used early on. And the content that we're making today, I think, is benefiting from it.
Completely agree with that, Shawna.
this seems like the perfect time to take a few questions if there are any. I'm going to check the chat over here. I don't think we have any right now. So I think that we will thank you all for joining us here on our fireside chat. Consider video in all that you do, and we're happy to help whenever you need it.
Thank you for